that you're homeschooling two boys because everyone that I've come across have been had like girl children, and no one has really spoken about homeschooling boys. So it's a yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I know of your own journey as well. Uh, and like Dablina was mentioning, I do come from an education background, but my journey initially started off with the more conventional schooling and education system of the IGCSE, CBSE, ICSE, sort of experience in teacher training and curriculum development. But when I came across Waldorf, I think in 2019, uh, it really threw me off from whatever I learned up until that point, because we spoke about all scientific theories, all behavioral aspects of children. But what Waldorf brought as a perspective for me was to see the child as a human being, not as an empty vessel that we need to fill with knowledge or mold them according to how we want to see them, but sort of trying to understand them as a human being in their own life as well. So, with that same intention, we started Thraya last year in Hyderabad. It was not in terms of setting up another school around the corner to sort of have a competition with the existing schools, but to sort of really create a community of parents, teachers, and even the extended community of people who are working in agriculture, people who are talking about sustainable architecture. It's just anyone and everyone, including the doctors, dietitians, physiotherapists, everyone who's talking about human life, uh, who can come together in a place to sort of support the life and education for the next generation of children who will be leading the world in their own way. So that was the whole intention with which we started Thraya as well. And what I'll be sharing with you today is my own perspective of Waldorf. Just like any other philosophy, it comes from a certain person and it has been translated over the years across the text by many different people in different contexts. And by the time it reaches us and how we process it and then articulate it has its own flavor. So, uh, please don't take what I'm presenting here as a rule of Waldorf. It is my understanding that I'm presenting here today. And I hope it helps you as parents in seeing children differently and also understanding the underlying purpose of education, whether they're in school or whether they're not in school. What is it that we can help learn in their life is the foundation that we can take back, hopefully, from this session. Just before I start, can like you drop messages on the chat, or if you can unmute and tell a little bit about your familiarity with Waldorf so that I have a sense of how deep or how easy it should be for you to understand and what all points I should be covering. Just a quick message, or if you can unmute and tell me whether you're familiar with Waldorf or not familiar. I'm not expecting any deep level understanding or answers. Okay, I think Anand gives a thumbs up, so I'm guessing he knows a bit about Waldorf. Trupti says she's new. Sneha says she's new.
Hi everyone, I'm Swati here. I would like to just give a little bit about myself.
Sure. Yeah.
Very new to Waldorf.
Okay.
Probably January is when I got to know. So
Okay.
I have two kids, a boy and a girl,
Okay.
uh, and I'm homeschooling too in US.
Okay.
And yeah, and I was amazed to hear about Waldorf too, just like how you mentioned.
Right.
Always done the typical regular schooling, and through homeschooling, I ended up finding Waldorf. And
Right.
I mean, too much information, so very overwhelming.
Yeah, I
And then
understand.
questions everything that you've been doing. So I think that's the reason I think I'm here. And I don't even know how did I reach up. I mean, I know how did I found this, but this just came for me, I think. So yeah, I'm looking forward to know more from you. Thank you, Meenu, for your time.
You're welcome, Swati. I hope at least I'll be able to present a structured view of Waldorf. I know online it's all over the place and it's very overwhelming.
And also request everyone to switch on the camera if possible, means then it helps us.
Yes, yes, yes. It helps the presenter a lot. Like you can see the faces.
Thank
No
you.
matter if you are working on the side, that's also fine. We understand today's day and life. So please.
Parag says he's just heard about it. Okay. Uh, okay, I think we've gotten responses from more or less everyone. Can you just bear me with a minute or two? I just want to plug in my laptop so that I don't lose out on charge while we are speaking. Just give me 2 minutes, okay? Thank you. I think in Waldorf, we are more prepared for experiences, not for technology. That's a bad thing. All right. So I'll keep it very simple and relatable for everyone to understand and take it back and adapt it into their own sense. If you see the title on the slide, which says Education of the Child, I was thinking about what to put on the title slide that can be a representation of Waldorf, and it reminded me of this book that Steiner had written about Waldorf. It's called Education of the Child. And it always puts me into perspective that we are not preparing the child for the market or the economic situation, but we are educating ourselves about the child so that we can help them become more uh, imbibed into the human life that they have taken upon themselves. So think of Waldorf from a sense of understanding the child more than about understanding the subjects or the content of the subjects that need to come to them. I'll give a little context to begin with. Uh, Waldorf was started by a philosopher called as Rudolf Steiner. I'll talk a little bit more about him in the next slide, but there is a quote from one of his books that I wanted to share about the purpose of an educational method. It is important that we discover an educational method where people learn to learn and go on learning their whole lives. So every time I think about Waldorf, it is a philosophy, it is a curriculum, it is an educational method. There are a lot of things to it. But when we think about what is the purpose of thinking so deeply about an educational philosophy, it is about what are we giving the child by introducing it in a certain style. And the whole purpose is enabling them to learn for life, because learning does not have a fixed starting and end point, and it happens throughout our life. And what our children need are tools to be able to learn and continue learning throughout their whole life, while they also find joy in what they're doing. Okay. So Steiner was born in Austria. He was a scientist, he was a philosopher, and he was many things. But his journey with education began around the time of World War One, when the social order in the world was all chaos. And by then, he had moved to Germany from Austria to do his doctorate, and he was part of the Theosophical Society to talk about birth, incarnation, karma, and all of these things. And on that path is when he founded a philosophy of his own called as anthroposophy. If you must have heard of anthropology, which is study of the human beings in a very scientific sense, which is our skeletal system, how we are as civilizations, and so on. Where Steiner comes from in his anthroposophy is understanding the human being from a philosophical and spiritual sense, which means that we look at the human being beyond what we can see on the outer layer of the body. It is about seeing what is happening within the body, inside the mind, and also how that human being is functioning in relation to the world around, as well as the cosmos and the universe. So, this is the foundation with which Steiner started bringing this philosophy into various aspects of life as well. He gave over thousands of lectures on medicine, on architecture, on cancer treatment, on remedial education. And then in formal school education, his efforts took a more concrete action when someone called Emil Molt, who used to run a cigarette factory in Germany, wanted to start a free schooling system for the children of the workers at his factory. So, as an alternative system to the state education that was being offered at that time, with the whole intention to create a social renewal after the devastation of World War One, where people were disoriented, they didn't feel a connection with each other, or they didn't have a free will and thinking, where their spirits were down in terms of even feeling hopeful towards life. That is the time around which a school, a first Waldorf school, was set up in Germany. And as of today, which is more than a century later after the first Waldorf school, there are over 12 Waldorf schools across 80 countries in the world, and over 1900 kindergartens specifically that are around 70 countries. The reason I'm presenting this context to you is so you can position Waldorf in the times in which it had come up, the reason behind why it had even taken birth, and the person himself who played a role, what was his ideology for bringing about this philosophy. If we look at the time at which philosophy was born versus the time at which we are present as of today, it's not much different. Maybe the war has taken a different form and shape, but there is still chaos. We still feel disoriented in certain senses. And though technological advancements are really taking progress to help better the human lives, it is also compromising on a lot of human abilities and capacities that we have as individuals. And this is not just about education, but it's about the quality of life we live, the quality of relations that we have in life, or just the outlook and the hope we have towards life is also somewhat similar to the time during which Waldorf was initially started. And even today, if we have to talk about the advancement of AI technology, which is talking about how there's so much advancement in artificial intelligence and thinking, uh, the real question again comes back to what about the human aspects of intelligence and thinking? Do I have the human intelligence that if I fall, I get hurt and I have to do first aid? I have to just at least clean it with water. Or do I just go online and ask AI that, I have fallen down, what do I do now? And it's that sort of having a human connection to the life that we are living is where Waldorf steps in. And so the key idea with which we can begin talking about Waldorf is how do we understand the human being? Okay. And for this purpose, Steiner has presented it as a fourfold human being. So he said that as a living body, I have a physical form and shape in which I take life, which includes my head, my torso, my limbs, my muscles, my joints, everything that helps me look human on this life. Okay. And the second aspect of the life, the term that he uses is called as etheric. But in simple terms, these are the life functions that we are talking about, which is our metabolism, which is our digestion, which is our breathing that happens. And every growth and renewal that happens in the body with respect to our cells, which help the body grow, which are all the processes and functions that happen inside the body, but not visible to the eye, but almost like the plant that you see what is happening outside, but you don't see the water flowing, the food going out from the roots and spreading into its plant, its leaves and stems, and then blossoming into the flowers and fruits. So the second body that he talks about is the life functions that are happening within. And the third aspect is the astral body, which is the emotions and feelings and sensations that we carry, which connects us to the world around us. When we feel happy, when we feel sad, when we feel hungry, thirsty, all these emotions that are coming upon us. And it's related to the animals around us, almost like the survival instincts that I have to do something to survive. I have to eat when I'm feeling tired or low on energy, uh, or that I can't uh, work efficiently and effectively over a longer time without having proper sleep. These are the aspects of the astral body that we talk about. And the final body that he introduces is the sense of identity and self that each individual develops on their own over the course of life. So, if you think about as a child, did you have a self of identity? You will start thinking about your role within your family, within your extended family, within your school. And then when you slowly start thinking about your adolescent phase and then adulthood, is when you can start really attaching a sense of individuality or choices that you made in life, for which, whether it is consequences in a good way or a harsh way, it was coming out of your self individuality, and that begins to develop at a certain age in your life. But what makes a human being whole, or when we want to look at a child, we have to understand that the child is not just the skin, the muscle, or the chubby boy that we see in front of our eyes. But it is all this that is happening. We look at them also, we look at how they walk, how they breathe, how do they hold something, and when they hit another child, how much awareness do they have of the strength that they're using. When they're eating food, are they able to control their intake? Are they able to tell if they want more, or are they able to tell that their stomach is full, they don't want any more? And this starts right from the age of a baby, an infant also. They cry when something is uncomfortable. That is their way of expressing what is happening within them as a life function, whether it's sleep or hunger. And all the processes, digestion and breathing that happen even when they're as a baby is also something that we closely observe and help them when they're ready to walk, or when they flip over, start lying on their tummy. We know that, okay, the next is that they're going to start trying to crawl and reach certain things. When they start holding and pulling up their body, that's when that physical body is getting that stamina and strength too. So I am giving you this perspective just to introduce how to see the child in all these perspectives. So I don't get too worried about not seeing the child in all these perspectives. Just as long as you have the question with you, you are at least meeting the child and trying to understand them. You don't need to get into the microscopic understanding of, and sort of interfering with the natural processes that happen as well. Just as a parent or as an educator, or whichever role you have around the child, as long as you are curious and look at the child with this perspective of all the bodies that are happening within that individual, then whatever we do for the child will also come from a certain intention to help in all of these aspects. Now, all of the four bodies, or the four foldedness that are existing in us and in the child, they come together in function in three aspects, which is the willing, feeling, and thinking. I have to put this in simpler terms. It's the head, heart, and hands. So the willing aspect is what I bring out into my actions through my limbs. Even if I have to put back my plate after dinner, it takes will. If I simply say that I don't want to do this today, I'll just go to bed and I'll pick this up later, it means that I am not finding the will in my body to do this. What this translates to in a child is when they want to learn something, they need to also develop the will towards learning, the will towards doing it. And we develop this through their body first, whether it is through painting or drawing or doing simple chores around the house. It is to develop the limbs of the child to come into action. And what technology today is doing to children, especially when we put them in front of screens, is counter working on their will. They don't want to move as much. They want to sit in one place. They don't want to interact or connect with anyone. If you see the same child when they were probably a baby, you see that the first thing a child does is try to reach out to anything and everything around them with their hand. And the first thing they do once they reach it is put it in their mouth, because they have a will to want to make sense of what this is around them. But when we are putting them in front of the screens, everything is just fleeting by, and there's no connection for the child to want to hold something, to touch, to feel, to sense what it is, and to make a connection with it. That is the will that in Waldorf we work throughout all age groups during the school year. but also specifically focus on will in the kindergarten age, which is 0 to 7 years. Because this is the age when the child is physically developing also. They are in the world trying to make sense of everything around them. You take them to a sand pit, they want to see what happens when they throw it up in the air. They see a stone, they want to pick it up and put it in their pocket. They see twigs and dried leaves. The wonder and the imagination that they have with all of these things is the will that is there in that child to be a part of the world that they're in. The second aspect is the feeling, which comes to the heart. So, when we talk about the heart, there is an emotion that every child carries, and the sense of hope is what matters when we are in the presence of the child. Despite the pandemic, despite the environmental changes that are happening around us, when we are with a child in their early years, we are always hopeful and present the goodness of the world and life around them, because that gives them a sense of safety and security. And in that safety and security, their curiosity towards the world is also protected. Imagine telling a child that we don't know if tomorrow will come or not. Do you think they'll go to sleep when you say that? Do you think they will want to learn something when you say that there's not going to be a tomorrow? Or even as simple as telling them that, if you're not going to eat today, you're not going to get play after this. Or if you don't listen to someone, there's going to be a boogeyman that will come and take you away. Unconsciously, we are creating a fear in the child to be a part of this world. And in this fear, they stop developing a curiosity or interest in the world. And because in this years, in the early years, they are very sensitive to every emotion around them, especially with the mothers. They pick up on every slight emotion, irrespective of whether you articulate it or whether you control your facial expressions. No matter how much you work within, it's almost like there is an invisible shield around you, and that shield is communicating with the child, sending off signals of what your mood is and what you're feeling. And the child really picks up on all of these things, which is why when you're trying to go out and you start rushing and panicking, and you're in a certain frenzy to pack everything and rush out of the door and leave, you will see that the child picks up on that anxiety or restlessness in the adult and makes it more difficult to put on the shoes or get ready to go out, because they don't understand the end result that you have in mind. They're only picking up your feelings, they're only picking up the restlessness. So they're also restless. They don't want to do anything that goes lean. They want to all over the place. But their attempt is only to resonate with the feeling that you are in, not to disrupt you. But the way we see it is, why is the child not understanding me? Why are they understanding that we have to go somewhere, by a certain time and so on? So, protecting that sense of feeling of the child is also something that we closely look at and understand and work in the Waldorf approach. And the final aspect comes with the thinking, where we talk about all the analytical abilities, the critical thinking, and logical thinking, and all of these. And ideally, from what I have experienced and what the philosophy says, is also to wait for the thinking to come at a later age for the child. When the child is asking you questions in the early years, which is below 7 years, that does not mean they want a scientific answer from you. It is a sense of wonder that they have about the world, and it is good that they're asking all these questions, because as adults we have lost that capability to even look at things with such wonder and possibilities. And that is what we want to protect in the child also, in the early years, when they look at a cloud and they ask like, where is that cloud going, instead of giving an answer saying that the cloud is not going anywhere, it's just the wind that is blowing from a certain direction and it's a bright morning. So instead of getting into the technicalities, if we can just leave it to the child, either we give a magical response saying that maybe the cloud wants to go somewhere, what do you think? Or simply just bouncing back the answer to the child that, oh, is it moving? Where do you think it is going? And then you listen to such beautiful answers from the child that we cannot even imagine. And the reason why we protect this sort of thinking in the early childhood is to protect the child to be able to think more deeply in the later years. If I give you a pen and I ask you to look at the pen deeply and start thinking about all aspects of the pen, after 2 minutes, or I mean, 2 minutes is too long, probably after a minute, you'll stop wondering about the pen. You give the same thing to a child who has the imagination, either they'll start pulling it apart because they want to see what is inside, or they will start to figure out its function and exploring what all the pen can do. Can it write on a paper? Can it write on glass? Can it write on the wall? Can it write on my face, on my clothes? They are exploring, they're thinking, they're wondering about all of these things. And if you connect this to the adult life or the later years of the child, it develops into the skill of being able to create something, being able to think about the nuances, about every single aspect of any discovery, any creation that has happened in the past, in the present, or that is about to come also. This is the thinking realm that we talk about when we work with children as well. So if we have to place it on a timeline of how this happens during the school years, in the early years, it is 0 to 7 years, where we focus a lot on the will of the child and presenting the goodness of the world around them so that they have hope towards the world. And how they learn this is through imitation. Everything that happens around them, they imitate. If a child is being loud and screaming, the first thing that we check is what in the environment is the child imitating? Is it someone else talking in that tone? Or is there some loud noise playing in the background? Or is it the colors that are there in that environment which is making the child feel that loud? Or is it something internally that is happening to the child which they're expressing in this way? But we never think about the child intentionally doing that act. We don't think of it as, oh, this child is misbehaving. No, they're not. They're just imitating what they know and they are expressing themselves in that way. So, what we can give them during this time is our own gestures and moderation and emotional regulation of how we go about life. As simple as placing a plate on the table, as simple as how we put a phone. Are we tossing it on the bed or the couch, or are we gently going and putting it on the bedstand or on the table? Same with the plate. How are we carrying it? Are we carrying it with both hands, or am I just flinging it with one hand and carrying it carelessly? Without us doing it, the child will not imitate that gesture and it will not become a natural act for them, no matter how many instructions we give. Because instructions are for the intellect to understand. There's a logical reasoning for why it has to be done. But the child is not there yet to understand the logic behind it. And then after the 7 years of age, which is the primary grades and the middle grades, we work with the feeling of the child through imagination, which is storytelling and art, where we bring a sense of what is right, what is wrong, and what is it to be courageous, what is it to be lazy, what is it to be hardworking. All of these human characteristics and traits is when the child will start developing a sense of what it means to be a human being. And the last phase is the adolescence age, when we start working with their thinking aspect more specifically, because that is when their sense of identity also develops. That I look differently from you, my voice sounds differently from you. When I hit puberty, my voice changes, my body changes, and the teacher relation changes. They start treating us differently. They expect us to take responsibility for our actions. Of all these changes that are happening for the adolescents, it is the thinking that we start working with by bringing in a lot of philosophical studies, literature, historical evidences, in which they understand how the human life has progressed over life. And in this phase, we work a lot with the truth. We cannot lie to an adolescent. They will simply question our authority. And the more truthful we are to them, the more respect they feel towards us, because we are showing them the true side of us, right? So from here, we'll go into the three core ideas of Waldorf education. Sorry, there seems to be an echo.
Meanwhile, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. We understand that this is, uh, it could be a little heavy on the head, but that's what Waldorf is. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you. If there is an echo, just please let me know.
Not for me. I can hear you loud and
Oh,
clear.
okay. So in Waldorf education, we work with three core principles. The first is child-centered. So every decision that we make, the child is at the center, not the adult, not the society, not the economy, but the child. And when I mean child-centered, I don't mean child-led, because in Waldorf, it is still adult-led. Here, we believe that as an adult, I am in a better place to make choices for the child and to help them have a structure to their day and go about their day, rather than burdening the child to figure it out for themselves and go through the process. This is definitely a different school of thought from other philosophies, and we'll talk about it later when it comes to how do you choose whether Waldorf fits with you as a parent or not. But just understand that being child centered means making certain lifestyle choices also. When we say that the child has to go to bed by 8 at least in the night, it means that we as adults also choose to slow down our day after a certain point in the evening. And that change or decision is centered for the child's need for sleep, about nothing else. And the same thing happens for food also. When we make a choice that even if my child takes 40 minutes to eat, we are going to sit at the table, we are going to eat, finish, clean up, and walk from there. When you make that choice, it is child centered. It is not the adult convenience that I am rushing, so I want my child to finish and we have to move, but also giving them the understanding that I, as an adult, am the authority that really loves you and wants you to develop as a human being. And this is the path that you'll have to walk down. And the second principle that we work with is keeping it age appropriate. Just like how when you're tending to a plant, you tend to it according to the stage of development where it is. You give it water and you give it extra nutrition according to the phase in which it is. You don't give a lot of water when it is a seed that is planted in the soil. You only dampen the soil to give it the moisture to sprout up. And the same thing when the plant has blossomed and has given its fruit, we know when that fruit or flower has come to its full blossom, it has ripened, how those life forces have come out, and how much more do we need to give into the soil for the tree to keep growing up. When to trim the branches, when to give that extra nutrition, all of these aspects. Just like that, we also look at the child in the respective developmental phases. In Waldorf, we look at it as 7-year periods or episodes of life, which is why the 0 to 7 years is the early years, and then the 7 to 14 is the middle years, and 14 to 21 is the next phase. In fact, the philosophy goes on to talk about the next 7-year episodes of life as well, all the way till the human cycle goes on, life cycle goes on. But the school years usually happen from 3 years of age to around 21. So we talk about the three phases of life, especially. And what it means to be age appropriate is what we were talking earlier also, that when the child is in the early years, we don't work on their intellect. We work on their body. We work on giving them as much movement as possible so that their limbs develop, their spinal cord develops, their posture develops, so that they're ready for the next phase of life when they turn 7. And then they're able to sit in one place, focus, have a conversation, follow instructions, take in what you are saying, repeat it with their own flavor and style to it, and slowly start developing a feeling towards certain things. Why is my teacher being a certain way with me? Why is my brother or sister allowed to do something and I am not allowed to do this? They don't understand the nuances of the time, context, age, and all of this, but they start sensing those differences in behaviors. And that is when we present them with that aspect of feeling also. So we work a lot with them in this years, giving them stories, giving them mythologies of hero characters to which they can relate, and also uh, sort of resonate with their feelings in those characters as well. We bring in animal characters. If you see a child who is between the age of 7 to 9, when you use phrases like stop jumping like a monkey, the child feels really happy because you're comparing a monkey with the child, and that is almost like a compliment you can give the child, because that is the phase in which they are. They want to see the world inside them, and that is how we introduce the education also in that age. And the last is that Waldorf has a main component of art and nature in everything that we do with the child. It's not extracurricular, it's not an pastime or a hobby for the child, but it is part of the curriculum. If you look at the painting that I have put on the slide here, there is a certain emotion, there is a certain use of color, there is the whole picture that is getting painted right from the roots of the plant to its leaves, to its stems, and then the flower that is blossoming on top. And if the child doesn't get a sense entirety in which the plant grows,
Meenu, you are not audible in between. Something is happening.
Am I
I'm
audible now?
yeah. In between the sound was going. Can someone confirm if it's same with everyone? It's just me. I think you can speak now. We can check. Yeah. It was just for very brief, like
Okay.
few
Was
seconds.
it about when I was talking about the art and nature
Ah,
integration?
yeah. That we got. That part we
Oh,
got. Yeah.
okay. So it's just that the key idea is to ensure that we are giving the feeling to the child of a whole, not a part, which is why all the subjects that are introduced in Waldorf in the later years are introduced together, not in silos where math is not related to language or language is not related to science. No, we see it in entirety. If we are doing farming, there is an understanding of science in it, there is an understanding of geography in it, there is an understanding of social in it, because I have to understand the profession of a farmer. I have to know the language for it to say that I'm sowing something, the plant is growing, and then we have to harvest it. And there's math also. I need to know how closely I can place two plants. So when I have an understanding of this whole picture only is when my education is happening in the whole sense. So these are the core principles that we work with in Waldorf education. Um, and when we come to the kindergarten specifically, while keeping all the three principles that I just discussed, there are also three aspects that are very specific to the kindergarten, which is rhythm, repetition, and reverence. When we talk about rhythm, uh, I know that we all think about the music, the beat, and how the music waves go and so on. But if you think about life in general, there is a rhythm to everything around us and with us also. There is a rhythm to our heartbeat. The heart beats 72 times. Yes. And there is a rhythm to our breathing also. We don't breathe in twice and then breathe out. We breathe in and breathe out. It happens in a rhythm. And if you think about the sun, there is a rhythm to it. It rises every day in the morning, it sets in the evening. And there's a rhythm to the cycle of the nature also. Monsoons follow after summers. And if any of this, heartbeat, breathing, sunrise, seasons, any of this, when it happens out of the usual order, we know that there is something wrong with it. There is either a heart condition that we are struggling with, or there is a lung dysfunctionality that we face. I don't know what will happen if the sun will stop rising. That is a thing to really worry about. So everything works in rhythm, and this is how we structure the day also for the child. When we talk about repetition, it is about doing something over and over and over again so that the child can understand the intricacies of what is being done. So when we give a painting to a child, if they're spilling water on it or if they're just putting paint all over the paper, instead of wondering why is the child doing it this way, if we think that this is their first step to know that this is paint, if I drop it, it's going to spread, it's going to flow away. Now you bring that painting again later. They are not going to pour now because they know that it's all going to go away and they're not going to have paint in the glass anymore to play with. And then they'll see that the paper is tearing up when they put a lot of water. So over time, children realize the practice of doing something. And to get to a point of doing it the right way is where reverence comes in. When they see adults around them doing something with gratitude, with devotion, and in simple terms, presence of mind, the child will automatically start mirroring those actions because that becomes a given for them. You can also think back to your own life situations where there are certain traits of someone in your family that you see in yourself even today as an adult. It could be as simple as the way you fold a handkerchief. They probably never taught you, but you must have just been around when they were doing it. And you just simply do it even today without even knowing that you were imitating what they were doing. So, Deblina, quick time check. Do we have around 10 minutes? Is that all right?
Yes, we have.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So, just like the three, or just like the stages of development that we spoke about, we also are introduced to something called as 12 senses in Waldorf. Uh, in the common language, we talk about the five senses, which are more popular because those are the things that are more tangible and what we can feel and sense immediately. But because we are talking about the human being also in the larger sense, uh, we try to understand the different senses that work on us. And in the kindergarten age, which is the early years, we specifically talk about four senses, which are bodily senses that help me understand about myself, about my own capacities. Okay, because as a child, they are one with the world, which is why you see them running into the doors quite often. If you leave a door only half open, the child will not know whether to evaluate that space and whether they can actually run into it or not. Most of the times, they hurt themselves either on the corner of the wall or the door. Same thing happens when they're running on different surfaces also. They don't know if they're running too fast on a certain surface, so they trip and fall. All of these are the developmental trajectory of the child's sense of their own body in connection to the world around them. And it happens in four aspects specifically in the early years. This does not happen that the other senses are, this does not mean that the other senses are not present in the child. They are present, but what we work on most is these four senses in the early years. The first is the sense of touch, which is the tactile experience for the child of the world around them. The example that I was giving you earlier of the child reaching out to something, touching it, putting in their mouth, all of this is their sense of touch that they're developing. And in the early years, it is very important to let the child walk bare feet, because there are so many receptors in our feet which send so many neural signals all the way into our body, whether the surface is hot, whether the stone is pricking me, whether I should run, whether I should keep my foot flat, whether I should walk on my toes. All of these are helping me understand my body sense. Okay, and with this sense, I'm also understanding the world around me, the temperature, the sort of ground that is there, and whether I'm following someone or if someone is following me from behind. This all happens through touch. Then comes the sense of life, which is the hunger, how we express and how we feel. Or when a child feels ill, we see that they want the mother's touch more. That is because there is a sense within them, that safety, that sense of safety, that if I'm with my mother, I feel warm, not just in the physical sense, but even within me, that I feel a warmth, I feel a sense of safety. And in the recovery process also, this plays a role for the child. So even in the classroom, when we talk about sense of life, it is the child's ability to know about sharing, whether I can pull something from someone or if I should wait for my turn. No matter how many phrases I tell them that sharing is caring, you have to wait for your turn, blah, 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 they just go over the head for the child. But when you see that sense of life developing in them, you will notice them being more ready to share. A 4-year-old child is more ready to share than a 2-year-old child. A 5-year-old child is more ready to involve others in their play than a 3-year-old child. All of this is a very natural progression in the human being, which indicates that development of that sense. It does not mean that the child is delayed in any sense, but it's just to give us a sense of whether we are working towards developing that sense in the child. Then, when we come to sense of movement and balance, these two are slightly different. When it comes to movement, we are talking about muscle memory. So even before we write with our hand, how do we know that we have to go from left to right? It has just become a muscle memory for us now to read from left to right. We are not spending time on each thought that, oh, the sentence makes sense because the word is connected to the first word on the left or so. It's just become a way of being. Even the way we walk, when one when the right leg goes forward, automatically our left hand goes forward. It's the laterality with which we walk. And this is not a conscious thought that we carry. This is a memory that our joints and muscles have built, which are making us function in the life. And when it comes to balance, this is the connection we build with the gravity that is beneath us, which helps us stand upright. When I'm walking on a plank, I'm able to hold my hands out and try to find my balance while I'm walking on it. It is the coordination that I have in my body when I'm trying to maintain that balance. So, whatever we surround the child with in the early years, remember that they are taking it in through their bodily senses. Everything that they come across comes through their body and they take it all in. So, we focus on developing the bodily senses. So I couldn't find a very relevant picture for a Waldorf kindergarten because uh, every Waldorf classroom is very personalized to the teacher and how they set it up. But to describe it very briefly, the common things that you'll find no matter where you go, whichever part of the world, you will notice that a Waldorf classroom will have very soft colors, almost like a peaches shade. If you place a torch of your phone against your skin, you will see a certain light that passes through your skin. That is the color that Waldorf kindergarten classrooms have. And the reason for this is to create a calm space for the child, which is almost like the womb. When the child is inside the womb, when light goes through, that is the color tone that surrounds them inside the womb. And in the kindergarten, instead of bright yellows that make them excited or the gloomy blues that make them feel a little moody, we surround them with this soft color to give them that safety and calm environment. And you'll see that the setup is very home like. There is one corner where washing happens, there is one corner where storytelling happens, nap time happens. There's one corner where there's a table set up for them to do any activities or where they have their meals. And there is a dollhouse in one corner where there's a kitchen set and there are some toys placed, and that is where the play happens. And it's almost like you are creating specific zones for the child to be in during the day, but it is so seamlessly placed in a way that it automatically gives an indication to the child where to be in which part of the day. When they feel hungry, you will see them slowly start navigating, putting back their toys in their place, and coming towards the table. You will notice that after a certain activity, the children will want to get up and move. They will start running around the classroom. So it's creating that environment where the child is not intimidated and overwhelmed, but feels like naturally a part of it. So we have elements from the nature that comes into the class, creating corners that connect with the nature. There are everything that's used in the classroom is of natural materials. You will very, very rarely find anything with plastic, and anything that does not have character or feeling towards it will be a very least possible thing that you'll find in the classroom. And the last is the open-ended toys. You will not find jigsaw puzzles. You'll not find flashcards or toys with which you can play only in one way, but you will find them to be in a way that the child can create and make their own play out of this. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to speed up through these last few slides. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. So just giving you a glimpse of how the day looks like in the kindergarten. And the fundamental idea is to keep the day with an alteration between breathing in and breathing out, which means periods of focus and rest, where the child is expanding into the world or taking in from the world, whether there is space for movement and then there is time for stillness, or they're constantly moving throughout the day. This is one of the R's that we spoke about also, the rhythm aspect of it, that there is almost like a heartbeat, like that up and down wave that you see on the monitor in the hospitals, almost like that. Imagine if a child is moving throughout the day. They will cry out their lungs in the evening because they can't express that their muscles and joints are paining. Same thing when we are overstimulating them with a lot of thoughts, you will see their disturbed sleep, which is why we schedule the day also in a very flowy way, which gives them those moments of alterations. You can extend this into the day at home also and see whether you're giving them a period of rest after focus and a period of focus after rest also. Okay. And to talk a little bit about the Waldorf teacher, which you can also reflect upon your own role as an adult in the child's life as a parent. Waldorf teacher is someone who is imitation worthy, that I am not clumsy, but there is a certain grace in which I carry myself around the child, and there is a purpose with which I do real work. It is not just that because the child is in my presence, I will do this, but it is a way of being that I am like this, whether it is around the child or not around the child. And the child picks up upon that behavior. One simple example that comes to my mind is in today's generation, there are recipes that are online and there are cooking shows that are happening. But earlier, it was just being present with our mothers in the kitchen that a lot of cooking styles that we carry into our adulthood has automatically come to us. And that's also one reason why boys don't cook, because they have never seen their fathers cook. So it is a very direct relation that the will of the child is impacted a lot by the will of the father, whereas the feelings of the child are impacted a lot by the feelings of the mother. It carries a great role on the child and they pick up immediately on these things. Talking about the other two roles that the teacher or the adult plays is that we are an artist and also a storyteller. When I mean artist is that I see the beauty in things. I see beauty in just putting yellow across the page. And I can feel like this is the sun radiating out of the paper. Okay. And when I tell the story, in Waldorf, we usually recommend that the adult tells a story from the heart, not reading the book, but from the heart. I understand it's not easy to memorize a story and then narrate it to the child. And in such cases, try to tell a story from your childhood and see how much the child will connect to it and keep asking you for that same story over and over again. Mama, tell me, what were you doing when you used to go to school? They want to keep hearing to that story again and again and again. And when we tell a story, there are images that play in our mind as well, which makes the story very much real for us. And that is what helps the child also connect with that story. If I feel that a fairy tale is a lie to a child, then the child will never connect to the fairy tale. They will simply start throwing questions at you and they will ask you for a different story. So this is almost like a choice that do you as a adult believe in magic and fairy tales? And that would be one key decision making factor of whether Waldorf is for you or not. So we'll end with this reflection of how you can go about thinking whether Waldorf fits for your family or not. The first would be your own perspective of childhood, whether you feel that childhood is a time where children learn the most. So you have to give them all the learning in the world in that age. Then Waldorf might not resonate with you because Waldorf believes in waiting for the right time to introduce certain learning. It believes that childhood is to be protected. It believes that childhood is a time where we have to give them the experiences the child needs to first develop their body senses. So if you believe that, oh, my child is young, so they will learn a new language, let me put them in a Spanish class, then that's not going to work. So that's the perspective on childhood that you will need to take. As simple as also abacus classes. A lot of parents feel that the early that they join them in these classes, the better their mathematical skills will be. Then when it comes to play, if you feel that play needs to have a purpose, or that play is a pastime or a waste of time, then Waldorf would not sit well with you, because majority of a child's day in Waldorf involves play. That is the time when they express themselves and they feel like they're part of a world. We did a session with Tabelina on this sometime last year. Maybe if she could do it again for this group, you'll understand the depth of the importance of play also for children. And I believe that's also one of the core fundamental reasons why she started Saha or the Parent Circle as well, to protect play for children. Uh, then moving on to time in nature, if you have worry that the child will get muddy or they'll get sick, or that they'll put things in their mouth, they won't be careful, they'll fall, they'll get scrapes and injuries, then I'm sorry to say, but Waldorf will not sit well with you, because children spend immense amount of time outdoors, because that really works well on their senses, on their oxygen levels, on their reverence towards the world around them, on how they should care for the plants, how they should dig the soil, how they should start putting the sand within the sand pit and not just, flitting it around. These are the senses that come into the child when they're in nature as well. And then talking about academic learning and intellectual awakening, like I said, if this is something you want to bring in early to the child, then Waldorf does not do it and you will be disappointed. And I would recommend that you choose Waldorf only if, as a family, you also choose that path. Don't send them to a Waldorf kindergarten and then teach them alphabet after they come back home. that's going to be very counter-effective for the child, and they will really suffer from what is happening in the house versus the school. Then starting to understand the needs of the child in the holistic sense, not just learning, but their food, their sleep, if, let's say, during meal time, it's a tough choice for parents. Do I want my child to eat, or do I want my child to eat so I'll give the screen? We often don't think of the effects of giving a screen during meal times. It is always a compromise that we as adults make, that I want my child to eat somehow, so I am resorting to screens. But unfortunately, that's not what the child needs. What they need is repetition of us staying to our word and giving them that time to start eating without a screen. When they ask screen, it's just them testing your boundaries, or them just getting habituated to it, not understanding their hunger, not understanding what they're eating also. So try to understand, keep the child at the center. I would say that is a good starting point. Is it your convenience of feeding the child, or the fundamental need for the child to know what they're eating? Yeah. And the last is understanding the child as a human in themselves, who are in the development process, not as a child that I have given birth to, so I have every right to decide how they grow up, but as a human being in themselves, who are coming into this life with their own destiny and purpose. And we are just a medium or a helper in that process to help them thrive in the life that they're here. So with this, I will pause. Thank you so much for being patient and listening through it. I know it's very heavy on the head as well, but I hope that there were some points at least that you could take back.
If anyone has any questions, please. I think it is enormously difficult to put Waldorf in 1 hour. So kudos to Meenu for trying to do that. So it really takes a lot to kind of squish it into. It's a lifetime's probably journey to understand Waldorf. So she has really done a great job. And if you have any questions, this would be a great opportunity to ask that. Or in the group also, you can ask later also if you need some time to process it. We understand. But some of the things were really, I mean, Waldorf is always, it gives me goosebumps. So some of the things were really, particularly when you explain that feeling part, when you were, that diagram was there, when the heart, you showed the will development and the feeling part, how important it is. It's beautiful.
Yes.
So thank you, Meenu. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I can see a couple of questions in the chat if you want me to respond to them now.
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
please.
Okay. So I believe Revati is asking about ifs and buts when the child is eating. My parents told my child that the boogeyman would come and take him away if he doesn't eat. I see that he believes it is true for every other action. How can I gently get him out of it? Um, I don't think I can give one straight answer to this, but you can try different things. First would be stopping the use of boogeyman in any adult references. And when the child is eating or not eating, try to bring them into that activity rather than getting them diverted into what will happen if they do or not do. So let's say if the child is sitting at the table and asking, or when they're playing also, that will the boogeyman come if I don't put back my toys? Just gently direct them into saying that, oh, but this toy wants to go back. It wants to go back to its house. So let's help the toy. If the child still keeps persisting and asking about, no, tell me about the boogeyman, I'm scared, will it come, will he come? Then just tell them that I am here. I will be here to protect you. Just say that much and leave it. You don't need to. It's almost like they will fall out of it the moment you stop taking reference of it. It fades out, I would say. I I'm sorry I couldn't give you one line answer that yes, this is what you need to do, but it's the broader picture that I could probably help you with.
And
Yeah,
maybe
but
they,
everything is understood.
Sorry?
Yeah, I actually I could relate and I could understand.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
you're welcome.
means I think her reference point is like it maybe as a parent they are not doing, but this kind of thing can come from the outside environment. And
Exactly.
so you be with your child, and slowly they'll become resilient. It's they'll learn from you. Means that's what today's session she
Yeah,
showed.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay, there's one more question from Madhavi. Should we teach the child or allow the child to know for themselves during sensory play? Uh, so we don't bring the awareness of the child to anything. For example, when we wet the sand with water, we don't instructionally or verbally bring attention to the child saying that, oh, look at what happened to the mud when we put water. It has become hard. I can now build a castle. We don't get into that conversation at all with the child in terms of an experience. We let them experience, explore, and experiment what they're doing during play specifically. I hope I got the question right. If you're still on the call.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am, for this insightful talk.
You're
This is my first time with the Waldorf system.
right.
Yeah, I understood that, that they need to explore it holistically by themselves instead of we directing into one dimension of their play, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Now, until what age do we have to allow them to do this kind of play? Because at some point we need to make them understand some concepts or
right,
in at least in terms of safety.
right. So I would say this happens throughout their life. There's no end point to
Okay,
it.
correct.
Even
Okay.
in the primary years, middle grade, or high school years, when we give them free play, that
Hmm.
is their moment of creating something for themselves and expressing by themselves also. And somewhere culturally, we are conditioned to think that they're not learning when they're playing. But
Hmm.
there's actually a lot of learning that happens in them also when they're playing. It could
Hmm.
be a bodily awareness, or it could be things that they observe around also. Even in the higher grades, the concepts, the sense of safety that you're talking about,
Hmm.
these come naturally because uh, the way we structure the environment for the child is still adult led. We are not saying that I will leave you in the world, you go figure it out for yourself. No, we are still creating that, uh, I would say, a bubble within
Hmm.
which they have the freedom to explore and
Hmm.
learn. So let's say even during play, I will introduce games through which the child will understand, say, multiplication tables, but
Hmm.
not in the traditional sense of me making them recite again and again during that game. It might come later in a different form.
Hmm.
But this game is only helping them feel it in their body, what it means for a number to repeat over and over again.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Does that make sense to you?
Yes, 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 yeah.
Okay.
Better. So, does Waldorf system have only unstructured way of learning, or does it also include a structured learning?
I would say it's very structured.
You would
Uh,
say structured.
yeah, because when we were talking about the rhythm also, you
Hmm.
see that every period of focus is followed by rest,
Hmm.
and then we move on to another period of focus.
Hmm.
And even when it comes to delivering content, we do follow a certain structure. Like in the kindergarten, when we do the songs and the stories also, we do it over extended periods of time and relate it to the local context and the season in which the child is there. So
Hmm.
if I have to talk about a rhythm that we are doing at our school in summer, we have songs about mangoes. And then we have a story about a caterpillar becoming a butterfly and going around in the garden.
Hmm.
And we do cooking also with whatever seasonal fruits or vegetables that grow with the
Hmm.
children.
Hmm.
And the structure that I am talking also is about, if the child is with us at school from 8:30 to 12:30, there is a structure to the day that we have. That when they
Hmm.
come, we do outdoor play and then circle time, they eat fruit. Similarly, at home also, if you can think of the day of the child and have
Hmm.
your day also in parallel,
Hmm.
you can see how you can create that flow for them.
Hmm.
It's not about them you constantly having to be with them or entertain them, but it's also about which aspects of your day can you involve them so that they see you doing these things and through imitation they learn. And which are the parts of the day where you would want them to spend by themselves so that they
Hmm.
create their play and not wait for adult involvement directions.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
you're welcome.
Hi, Meenu ma'am. Parag here.
Hi, Parag.
Firstly, thank you so much for such an insightful session. I missed on the first 15 minutes. I had to step out for a while, but then I just caught up. And for the rest of the session, I was just hooked up to what you were saying. Thank you so much for that. Secondly, I had a specific question. So I have been into homeschooling. I have been into Waldorf style of things. I heard of it, and you gave a beautiful insight to it.
Mm,
So I'm just very much convinced to it. But the only thing I won't say stopping, but I always think of is that what if I adopt this style of learning for my kid,
mm,
but maybe not my wife, maybe not
mm,
my mom, dad,
mm,
maybe not my in-laws, who are basically the environment to the kid,
mm,
and they have still
mm,
nourishing the kid in their own
mm.
way. Right?
Right.
You get my question, right? So these all these factors,
Yeah.
I won't say negatively, but differently impacting the kid, and this is not aligning with my thoughts.
Mm.
What do you suggest on this?
This is a very common thing that we also come across because culturally in India as well, uh, I think somehow uh, grandparents are very different when they're parents, and when it comes to grandchildren, they're again very different. Uh, but as a family, try to find uh, one common point. Uh, of course, there has to be compromise. Now, whether that has to be from you or from your wife or from in laws and parents, that is something that you all have to come together and then decide for yourself. So, one option that I can give is give alternatives to help them see what you believe in.
Hmm.
So, for as simple as the time that the child spends with grandparents, what we help parents with from the school is to have a conversation with the grandparents to understand what is the routine of the grandparents like when the child is with them,
Hmm.
and try to see that if the child can be a part of what the grandparents are doing during those times, and have certain non-negotiables, like if you are someone who doesn't believe in giving screens, have that as a non-negotiable. Tell them that this is something that is not acceptable for me. Whether I'm doing right or wrong, it is a decision I am making for my child. So I'd request you to please respect it.
Right.
So I would say that. But between the parents, the mother and the father, I would recommend as much synchronity as possible, so that it's not confusing for the child in your responses also. Because when they ask you a question, you might respond to it a certain way. But if your partner is responding to it in a very scientific, logical sense, then the child unknowingly will start navigating towards the logical reasoning aspect of it, even they don't understand it. And it'll affect their imagination at a later point of time.
Right.
So in such a case, it's better that one of you changes your style of responding to the child's questions.
Correct. Correct. Thanks for that. One last question. I was just researching. To be honest, I was not knowing about you earlier. I just
Hmm.
researched your name. I got to know that you are the founder of a beautiful school here in Hyderabad. But unfortunately, now I am from Thane, and
Right.
there's no Waldorf themed school in Thane, not even nearby anywhere where I can reach out. And I'm working. My wife is also working, and I've been like quite a kind of a researcher on this homeschooling thing, and I've been like convincing my wife as well that let's go with homeschooling thing. I don't want to go with the conventional style of schooling.
Yes.
And so right now my kid is 4 years. She's in lower KG, and I have got her into one of the small school nearby my place. But then
Hmm.
I'm thinking of dropping her out of school once she passes senior KG. So from
Hmm.
first standard onwards, I was thinking just homeschooling her. But
Hmm.
since we both are working,
Hmm.
we are right now in a experimental mode of thinking where we are trying to get as much as time possible out of the work
Hmm.
schedule and give her the time that she needs, and
Hmm.
analyze for these 2 years whether the homeschooling is really working for us or not, right?
Right.
So ideally it's not really in during the day. Quite a few times it happens like she comes to us and say, papa, mama, please play with me, can we draw, can we do the colors together, can we do this together, can we do... everything has to be together, right? She seeks our friendship kind of thing. So in that case, we are not really. It's not really possible to give her that time, and then she gets bored, and then we have started getting a feeling that's, is it not really working for us? And if it's not really working for us, is the only option then is to put down into us in a normal school again from the first standard onwards, and
Right.
something that we don't want. So we are in a cyclic loop now. So what do you think on this?
Can I ask how long it has been that you've started experimenting this?
1 year.
Okay. And during this 1 year, it has been consistently the same request from the child to involve you into the play?
She initially she went to schooling, and then after schooling she was in daycare,
Okay.
and then slowly gradually we started reducing the number of hours so
Right.
that we get to know. Now she just goes for two hours to school, and then she's totally comes to home and then plays with us. So
Right.
for a couple of hours, like 1 or 2 hours max, she plays on herself,
Right.
but by herself. But then she gets bored, and then she comes to us, and while we are in the meeting now,
Mm-hmm.
where yeah, and things are getting difficult for us.
Right. So one thing I can say is, don't think of it as she's getting bored, because it's only us as adults who use that terminology that they're bored. It's possible that she is looking for a social connection. I'm not sure how her time at the school is, but it's probably that social connection that she's looking for. So if you can bring in like periods of time where she's either going to play with other children in your building or with neighbors in the evening, and then she comes back, maybe that desire to want you to fill in that gap might wean off over time. But also, don't look at this as a bad thing, because it's very natural and common for the child to feel and ask for it at this age. Uh, you'll just have to figure out what's working for you. So maybe when you have a meeting specifically that you absolutely cannot walk out of or get distracted from, either your partner fills in for you, or there is something that the child is doing along with you. So when you are busy with something, the child also can get some work to do. And then
Right.
after you finish your meeting and the child finishes the work, both of you come to meet and sit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
Can I add something?
yes,
Because my son is 6, but I'm also facing this same. I'm in the same boat as Parag just mentioned, that he's bored and now he's like it's summer vacation time. And Minu very rightly like put it that he's when he says bored, he has put taken that term from somewhere, and but it is actually social connection that he's looking for. So what we have, like today morning itself, I took him to his friend's house in the morning, and he played there for 3 hours straight. I worked from there. So I am trying to build in my social system, my village, my ecosystem here. So sometimes I will drop him somewhere, or I will probably sit with him there, and while he plays, sometimes the child comes over. So he at this point is actually looking for social connection, and when social connection is there, he does not even look at me. Right?
Correct.
Correct. So we'll have to kind of uh, like stretch ourselves a bit,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
and build that system which will work for us. Like I'll tell you, we really do not, we did not have a very big social like a circle here. But honestly, during this summer vacation, I actually went out and I told people that, hey, you can drop your child. Sometimes I will come, and people were very open. So it's like, yeah, it works. So that is something that I have been trying, and it has worked to some extent, I would say. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thanks,
And
And
Meenu.
I have messaged on the group. I found one school called the Reading Tree. It's a Waldorf inspired school in Thane. You can look at it.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Just
Thanks for that.
look at it here.
and also I would like to add here, like if you got in touch today, world of you got inspired by it, please try it out. Problem
Of
is
course.
that
Of
you
course.
once you put it into school, then you'll see the difference. I have two teenagers, one is 16 and 12, and my elder son gone to school till fourth standard. So I can see the clearly the difference between two child, the elder son and the younger son, the way they are, means they think on terms
Right.
of resourcefulness and all like that. So the natural intelligence, you can call it natural intelligence, or you can world of, like now Minu have explained beautifully. This thing is the right time, like to make him like kind of secure from others influence. And most of the thing is, yeah, I understand. I also worked for some time in a corporate and all, like Devolani also says, we also go through something. But what I find, like from my experiences, like my both of my parents used to work, and I remember like understanding my parents, if they say that today I'll be late, can you take care of this thing? Like I have a younger sister also, so I used to surprisingly find, like right now as you speaking, I'm like we used to be okay, means and I see the same thing for my children also. They have stayed alone, although like means me and my wife had to go somewhere, and it is from very young, they stayed alone also for some time. And that also, like because we didn't find anybody, we wanted to ask somebody, requested, but nobody came. So the children, they were there at home, and they managed themselves. That was very surprising. Like the children outdid themselves. So you could be surprised. Like means we may think that we as a parent maybe we are a very big thing, but they have come from you only, no? So your better version. So try.
Exactly.
But only thing is that if you give a factory school, then they will become a product. To become human
Correct.
being, either you do homeschooling. In case you need help in homeschooling, that's what I do. We'll give you all the resources, and of course now world of also, like Devalini has given. Just try it out. And one more
Sure.
thing
Sure.
is like, please introduce your parents to like whatever you are doing. Means maybe they might not understand, But once they see the things, no, how they are going, and if their grandchildren are happy, I don't think they'll be. It is just the fear, no, like something what will happen. Suddenly, somebody, their friend will come and tell, and then they may get. And then if they see that grandchildren is happy, I don't think any grandfather in our or grandmother in our India will be like kind of away. You can take them to any Waldorf school. You take them like this homeschooling meet and all like that. We are always organizing, always we are doing things, and then
Right.
let
Right.
bring also your grandfathers and all. See, it
Sure.
is not like your father may be not acting as a grandfather at that time, but they may see another homeschooling child who's don't have a grandfather. They get a chance to meet. No,
Hmm.
you don't know like from where which connection will happen.
Correct.
I think we have
And
overshot time by like a lot. But I think, yeah, thank you all of you who are still here listening to us. So thank you, Meenu. Thank you everyone for joining in. The recording will be uploaded in the group, and anyone who does not have the group access, you can ask the person who gave you the access to this. They will definitely know where they got it from. So some people have joined, some people are asking. I have put the group access on the chat also. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Meenu. And yeah, see you soon. Chalo. Bye.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.